Welcome to AUSA's Army Matters podcast. This is Family Voices with Patty Barron. Our first Family Voices podcast features you. Because you cared enough to tell us what was on your mind, we invited the Secretary of the Army, Dr. Mark Esper, the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, General James McConville, and the Sergeant Major of the Army, Dan Dailey, to AUSA headquarters on February 5th for an important Family Readiness Initiatives Forum. This forum was a direct result of the Army Senior Leaders Town Hall we had at the AUSA annual meeting last October. The issues that you raised were taken seriously, very seriously, so much so that 9 initiatives were created as a result. What are they? Let's listen in.
I'd like to begin at the beginning, and that is when I was sworn into office nearly 15 months ago. The first message I sent to the field emphasized, of course, the 3 Army priorities of readiness, modernization, and reform. But then I was very clear to make evident that we have an enduring priority, and that is taking care of our soldiers, our families, and our civilians. And so over the course of my first year in office, I had a chance to go around the Army with my wife, Leah, who's here as well. And really, everywhere we traveled together, we would meet with family readiness groups. We would meet with spouses. We would meet with young soldiers with their spouses. She would travel to the child development centers, the hospitals. I would do my share as well. And over the course of our travels, whether it was Asia or the Middle East, across the United States, Alaska, Hawaii, you name it, common themes kept surfacing. And so in the last several months, we've been able to turn those into actions, ideas, into directives to really help improve the welfare of our soldiers and their families. And you'll see on that sheet that you should have received coming in a number of things that have already been implemented or are underway. And I want to talk about some of them today. Of course, in October, we had the AUSA conference, and we also did a family readiness forum there. And a lot of good issues came out. And we took action on many of these issues, but we also wanted to make sure we had a forum by which we can come back to you. And this today represents that opportunity to come back to you and talk to you about what we did. Now, that said, this is also an opportunity for you to tell us more. Give us more ideas, more things you're seeing happening out there in the field. Finally, throughout my travels, nearly everywhere I go, I do a town hall. And it would involve soldiers, family members, spouses, DA civilians. And from those travels, we get a lot of good ideas, a lot of issues get surfaced, and we're able to address them one-off without really being able to tell the broader story or the changes or the issues that have arisen along the way. And so one of the other things that we've done here, and I'll show it later here this afternoon, is to set up a web page whereby you can see issues I collect on the road, what our answers were, and how we're dealing with them. And that way we can raise the awareness of the broader Army community, our broader Army family that is out there, to tell you what we're doing, what we're taking action on, or things that may be that will take longer to implement because it involves Congress, whatever the case may be. So that said, before I turn it over to for comments by the Vice and the Sergeant Major, I do want to run through a few things to give you a sense of where we are on a number of issues. And I'll move through it pretty quickly because I do want to save time for our family members, our spouses, or the associations being represented by any of them to ask some questions or make some comments. First of all, on child care, this may be one of the biggest issues that Leah and I have heard on the road, the challenge of finding adequate daycare in facilities, and particularly in overseas or OCONUS facilities where it's been a particular challenge. So we are revising our policy to make sure soldiers receive the priority that they should in our child-based development centers. And we are making other changes as well. We've made changes to what I call the second biggest topic, which is spousal hiring, civilian hiring, to make sure that we could put people much more quickly into the daycare centers to provide the staffing. If you look at our statistics, you find in many reasons, in many cases, the reason why our child development centers are not at full capacity is we have an insufficient number of providers. And that gets into the second issue, spousal employment, which is directly related. These two are interrelated issues. Now, last year when I came in, it took us an average 134 days to hire a civilian. And you can see the challenge. Nobody is going to wait 134 days, or by the time you do, another opportunity has come before you, or it's time to PCS again. So my goal has been to get us below 60 days. We were moving fast, not fast enough. We've decreased the number by 10%. But every day we're pushing hard with both internal to the Army and with OSD, and I've had numerous conversations on Capitol Hill. In fact, just this morning, I was told by OSD PNR that we will be soon receiving new authority for direct hiring authority, which allows us to hire folks in certain specialties in a matter of weeks. And soon we will see a new policy come out on what's called PPP, which is preferential hiring. And that will give us another tool to make sure we can hire folks much more quickly. We're improving automation. We're looking at doing conditional hiring. For child development centers, we've done something called on-site hiring. We're moving, for example, to standardized position descriptions, which allows for civilian hiring to occur a lot more quickly. We've eliminated duplicative boards. We find that weeks of time are chewed up at the installation level where hiring managers are taking, I would say, too much time to hire somebody. So reducing duplicative boards, coming up with standard positions really gives us a lot more authority. So those are just some examples with regard to spousal hiring, civilian hiring, and how it relates to child care, where we're really trying to accelerate the process. Closely related to that, of course, is spouse credentialing. Previously there was no policy to assist Army spouses who require a new state license. And as we know, spouses, and I've talked to them everywhere from Fort Campbell to Fort Bragg and overseas, pay significant fees to transfer license. You could be an accountant, a doctor, an attorney. And so we are developing a new policy to reimburse the expenses for transferring license for most spouses. And at the same time, I'm going to continue to work on Capitol Hill to get lawmakers to come up with a broader national policy to make sure we could do that. As many of you know, we've built into our own approaches that as we look for new installations, moving people, that factors will include spousal hiring, credentialing, and stuff like that. Some more family readiness initiatives. This is one that I've heard from, the Chief of Staff has heard from as well, and that's home-based businesses. So in the past, it's been very difficult to start a home-based business. And for many spouses, it's a means of additional income. It's a livelihood. It's important to them. So we've recently clarified through directive that HBBs do not compete with AAFES or MWR and should be considered a supplement to both. Commanders have been instructed to develop a clear, easy-to-follow HBB application process. It should take no more than 60 days, if not half that time. And so we'll be sending out more directives to the Army. But again, we want to make sure that spouses have the ability to set up home businesses in their homes and help provide for their family if that's the reason why they're doing it. Another important topic, parental leave. Previous policy provided a limited amount of leave time for mothers and primary caregivers. Only married soldiers could take leave. So our new policy, just signed a few weeks ago, provides mothers the flexibility to choose between 6 or 12 weeks of non-chargeable convalescent leave. And we've also increased parental leave available to spouses and secondary caregivers to 3 weeks. And there's more detail, of course, to this we can get into because we have our experts up here as we need to. But again, another big change for the Army that I think will help our families. Exceptional Family Member Program. I've heard a lot about this, particularly OCONUS, about challenges. And by the summer of 2019, we hope that soldiers and families with assignments to OCONUS locations will benefit from a DoD standardized family member travel screening form. Additionally, families will be allowed to be screened at any military treatment facility, and EFMP families will receive a guide to help keep track of all these forms. At the same token, my push has been internal to the Army to give families, parents, a lot more say in the process on both ends of it. I think you need more voice. I've heard that consistently, so we're working to make sure that we build those into the system. Family readiness groups. Again, the common theme, too many restrictions on family readiness groups. What are the expectations? Some limitations on the ability to raise funds in terms of FRGs really want to do what they do to support our soldiers and their families. So our new policy that will be coming out eases restrictions on using informal funds so that they can be used on a wider variety of support and recognition. Funding can be raised anywhere on post as long as it's with the concurrence of an installation commander. It does not compete, again, with AAFES or MWR. And we've also done a lot to limit the reporting and the other bureaucratic stuff that really has been a burden to families. So more to follow on that, but that's kind of what you'll be seeing coming out here soon. Military housing. We certainly are committed to providing safe housing for our families. We're currently in the process of inspecting approximately 40,000 pre-1978 homes to ensure families are living in a safe environment. Out of an abundance of caution, we've done visual inspections of 10% of the 13,000 pre-1978 homes. And for the ones that were involved with lead paint. I actually spent some time at Fort Benning a few months ago. I was at ground zero to observe what was happening and all the remediation taking place. But we also look for other things, lead in drinking water, asbestos, et cetera. At the same time, in my budget, we're reallocating a pretty good sum of money to make sure we eliminate all Q3 and Q4 housing. That's the lowest level of housing by the year 2025. And we're increasing funding in the near term to get us on a trajectory. I think 2025, right, General Bingham, or is it 26? 26, okay. Thank you for correcting me. Household goods, another important issue. My wife, Lee, and I, during our numerous PCS moves in the military, experienced our share of lost, delayed, et cetera, items. Many of you have had negative experience, particularly after last year, where we really had a hump over the summer season. This obviously came up at the forum at AUSA last October. This year, the household goods carrier list with customer satisfaction scores will be posted online. And I want to thank Transcom. Where are you? Transcom, thank you for doing that. I think there should be behind me an example of what that will look like. The aim is to give families, those who are moving, a lot more transparency with regard to the scores of the ratings, the scores of companies that may be moving your household goods. We're also looking to add more companies to make sure they have that. Within the Army, we're going to try and smooth out that summer hump, particularly in the peak of the peak period. And there's some other things we can talk about when we get to that in this discussion. But that's just some of the initiatives we've tried to move forward with in the last few months. Some other things I'll just hit briefly. Total Army Sponsorship Program. We want to get to the point very soon where no first-term soldier, no junior enlisted soldiers are moving or leaving their current installation without having a sponsor at their future one, down to the unit in which they are arriving. With regard to community service reform, we're trying to aiming to empower commanders, local commanders, a lot more authority to tailor the resources of their garrison to the needs of their community. So that means adjusting MWR, adjusting ACS, whatever the case may be, to meet the needs of their family. Lastly, and I'm going to turn it over to the chief because I've taken up too much time here, is I said earlier I go on the road a lot, do a lot of town halls, and we get a lot of good ideas, and we're able to answer questions or dispel myths, whatever the case may be. And so the other thing we're standing up on the Army website, I think it should be up behind me, is a new web page where as we go along the road, you'll be able to see commonly asked questions, FAQs, and what the responses are. So it's a way for the broader Army family to see what our answers are, but particularly those wherever I travel to see the specific answer that we've taken back. So I know I've covered a lot of ground. We'll have a chance to talk in more detail as we go on, but I want to pause right there and say again, thank you, AUSA, for hosting this. Thank all of you for attending, and I'll turn over to the Vice.
Well, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Yeah, and I want to echo the Secretary's thanks to AUSA for putting this together. What a wonderful event, and a special thanks to all of you who came out today to support our families. That really means a lot to us, and it's very, very special. The Secretary did a great job of laying out the policy changes that are undergoing the Army. I've been in the Army for a little over 37 years right now, and married for 31 years, and my wife and I have 3 kids that serve, and one's married, so we have a little different perspective on families in the Army today. And today, 53% of our soldiers are married, and 43% have children. So it's a family business. And what we see is kind of changing. Many of our married couples are dual military, or they're dual working professionals. And we need to recognize that, because that's most of the young people coming in. That's how they're coming in. And if we want them to stay and serve, we have to take care of them in that manner. Because we enlist soldiers, but we retain families, and we have to make these type changes. That's what these changes are all about. And that's why we're going to put them in place. And we want your feedback, and we want your help, so we can make sure that families not only survive their enlistment, but they actually thrive during that. And because we do have a great Army, and families are a critical part of that. And what I'd like to do right now is turn it over to our great Sergeant Major of the Army, Sergeant Major Dailey. Sergeant Major.
That's you.
Mr. Secretary, General McConville, and ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, echo the comments of what General McConville just said, and thanks for being here. We can't do this alone. We don't do it alone. I'll mention another group that's here with us today too, but I always said that the people that show up for these kind of things are the ones that are vested, and they got something to say, and it's our job to listen. By all means, you've heard me say it in the past, and I'm going to say it again today. We're not perfect at doing this, but we're the best in the world, and I believe that. And we will continue to strive to do that. And I think that's evident in the amount of energy that the Secretary of the Army has brought to family programs. If you remember, when he came on board, he said he was committed to this. He went to AUSA and took took your issues and concerns. What you don't see is the passion, enthusiasm, and energy behind the scenes that we get to see in this great group in the front here, which is the primary staff, and his persistence. You can't walk down the hallway without being questioned about, Sergeant Major, what have you done about this? And that's positive energy that our headquarters needs. And he puts word to deed, and then he puts deed to paper. And things happen, and it's evident of what we've gone over today. So I'm proud to sit up here with this team, General McConville and the Secretary, because they are vested from both a personal and a professional, but truly invest in the families because they've all lived it. And they're continuing to live it every single day. So thanks, Mr. Secretary and General McConville. Like the Secretary, and due to him and the Chief giving me the ability to do so, I get to travel around the Army pretty liberally. Sometimes I'm a little scared of how much authority they've actually given me to travel around the Army, but I take full use of it. Trust me, as Secretary. But the benefit of that is what the same thing Secretary said was, I get to talk to soldiers and families. And sometimes I get to have what I call the fireside chat. So we just grab a soldier and grab an MRE. And for some reason, they feel like they can just tell me anything that's on their mind, which is good. And that's important. And it's important for us to do that. It's because we got to be the barometer and to be the gauge for the force. And we're not always perfect. But what I'd ask you is that we need to continue that feedback. But I also ask you is the chain of command, I promise you, is the best mechanism to get after it first. Sometimes it's difficult for us to fix things when there's a lot of pressure externally. In most cases, the chain of command could have fixed it right there on the spot on the installation. So I'd ask you is that as these issues and concerns is reinforced to your families and your communities that we empower our chain of command by first giving them the first opportunity to fix the problem. Now, nobody at this table is going to shy away from any of these problems, I promise you, and the Secretary is not going to let that happen. But in most cases, that's how we get it resolved, down at the chain of command level. And that chain of command also needs the benefit of being able to understand those things so they can provide services for their families and their soldiers commensurate to their needs based upon their geographic location, as the Secretary said. You know, we recruit soldiers, but we retain families. And if there's any indication of how we're doing, we recruited soldiers at a higher rate last year than we have throughout the history of the Army. And that's something to be said.
I love what SMA Daisley said. We're not perfect at doing this, but we are the best in the world. And I have to agree as well. He also gives you credit for bringing these issues to the forefront. And I quote, "We need to hear from you, and it is our job to listen. It is their job to listen, and you need to tell them what's on your mind." And that's exactly what we got. Here is a sampling of some of your questions.
My name is Megan Harless, and I'm a military Army veteran and spouse. And my question is that it's my understanding through an RFI published in November that a single move management system is expected to roll out for peak season 2021, effectively privatizing the PCS season. What is the expected cost benefit to moving to this system, and has there been a study done to support spending taxpayer money on such a large scale change?
Yeah. So if I could, Transcom has been a terrific partner as we've worked specifically on the short-term issues as we approach the next peak season, but also long-term structural issues. And the contract change that you mentioned is one of those initiatives that Transcom is working right now. They're still working through the details. The timeline you provided is correct. Their goal is, if this makes sense to do, and it does improve effectiveness, it improves customer service, and they will let the contract in 20 and then implement in 21. But that is all condition-based as they go through the discovery process and work through the specifics. But there is a group right now, Transcom, and Colonel Ralph Lonsborough from Transcom is with us as part of that, is working toward that end. I hope that answered your question.
So a follow-on to that, sir, is that if that program doesn't take effect till 2021 for that peak season, what effectively is being put in place to help families for the next 2 years while we wait for that program to roll out?
So there's some specific things we're doing. So first and foremost, we are establishing increased quality assurance inspections at the point of pack and the point of delivery. Right now, we're doing about 25% of those in person. The goal right now is up that to 50%. Additionally, we're creating now more CONUS moves. So most of the damage and loss that occurs when things are put into storage that are not created. So Transcom has put out that notice to industry to increase the percentage of that for the CONUS moves. That's done right now for all OCONUS moves. The last thing I'd mention, there's a host of things. We'll be happy to provide the details to you on the others, but in May, Transcom will stand up a 24/7 hotline so that anyone throughout the DoD who's having issues with their move can call that hotline and get visibility on where their shipment is, remediation for any issues. Some of the frustration, as you well know, is that because the household goods movement process is so segmented, you have to call multiple parties while your shipment is en route to get visibility to solve problems. That will no longer be the case come May. And that is targeted specifically to help the situation over the peak season this coming summer. And again, there's a host of other things we're doing in concert with Transcom. Transcom has been a terrific partner, and we're happy to share the details with you.
Not only did the household goods moving company issue get some attention, but spouse employment was mentioned from an online audience member that told an all too familiar story.
Let me take one question here from the outlying station. Shawnee Mack, a military spouse from Fort Rucker. And her question is, I'm a veteran, a former GS employee, a military spouse, enrolled in the spousal preference program at Fort Rucker. I have 2 bachelor's degrees, one of which is in education, the other in psychology. I was a teacher, but due to a PCS, I'm now on unemployment and have been looking for a job since last May. Not only is it extremely difficult to get a job on Fort Rucker, but the town we live in is very small and also very difficult to get a good career job. What is the Army doing to this systemic problem in terms of policies or programs to help alleviate this stress on military families?
Well, I appreciate the question from Shawnee with regard to this. It sounds like somebody that's very extremely qualified, and it's fair to say, because on my travels, I hear this. I meet wonderful spouses. They tend to be overqualified and underemployed, and Shawnee seems to be almost an extreme example of this. Obviously, I can't correct the market in a small town in Alabama. It's just the nature of things. But what we can do is continue to provide program support for spouses in those particular areas. We have to do a better job on spousal hiring and civilian hiring for those jobs located on bases that we provide. There's no reason why somebody should have to wait 100+ days to get a job. There's a bigger issue out there as well. In fact, the vice chief and I had a meeting earlier that touched on this, and that is PCS moves. I've said on several occasions, I want to slow the turmoil, reduce PCS moves. We have some things underway to do that. So, for example, we're moving to standardize all CONUS tours and most OCONUS tours to 36 months. So if you were OCONUS previously rotating every 24, now we're going to get it all synced up. Also within the personnel system, we're trying to get the message out that it's okay to stay in one place for an extended period of time. In fact, I recently met with an officer who had been in one location for all 18 years of her career to date. And so that's fine, I think, as long as you're performing your role and it's value added to the Army. So I think to the degree we can stabilize the force, particularly if a spouse has a great job, doubly good if the kids are in good schools and the parents are happy, is we want as much as possible to reduce PCS turmoil. And again, we were talking about that a couple hours ago as we were discussing a new market-based talent management personnel system and how we could do the same with more broadly across the Army to help persons like Shawnee out there who sounds like left a good job, a good career, and to go to Fort Rucker. I don't know if you want to add anything, Vice.
No, as someone that's been to Fort Rucker many times as an aviator and having taken my wife there, first of all, it's a wonderful place with wonderful people. But the point the Secretary made, it's very difficult for spouses that have professional degrees. They'll come into a school system, or if you're a registered dietitian, or nurse, that's one of the things we've been talking about, because at the highest levels, people are taking a look at this. People are very interested in taking care of our spouses. Many of you have professional certifications that every time you go, and I have someone that lives very close to me that has a professional certification. Every time she goes to a new state, she has to sign up again and spend the money, try to get a new job, go back to the beginning where, you move up and then you move back down, you move up. So the secretary said, there's a couple ways to get after it. One is just educating senior leaders throughout the country on the importance of what our spouses do. And then second of all is just changing the model of how we move people. And we are taking a hard look at that right now. One size does not fit all. We have a model where you move just because it's industrial age, every 2 or 3 years you have to move. Not necessarily. When we move to a talent management system, we're putting this P at the end, a preference thing, which is kind of blasphemous in the Army, where you have a preference on where you're going to go and maybe stay if that fits. And then as long as you're in a position where you're contributing and, you want to stay there, we'll let you stay. And I think that can ground families in a better place so they can become part of the community and they get the jobs they need. And so we don't have that solved yet, but we are committed to making that happen.
If I could add, maybe Sergeant Major, you've done a lot of work on credentialing of soldiers. That's a major effort underway. Does that extend into the spouse community?
Well, I know that this past year, the NDA did pass and gave us the authorities, and I think the Secretary did mention it. We're working on a policy to help spouses of service members recoup the costs associated with licensing and credentialing. What I can tell you, though, is that some of the benefits that we'll gain, that it will extend to our family members on our installation, is our CSP programs and our corporate fellowships, which are open to our family members as well. We have those throughout the installations. A lot of those are your trade industries, but there are also some academic and some corporate fellowship opportunities for spouses. So what I would say is you got to look out the means of traditional job shirts. There's a lot of people out there that want to help. I mean, industry, right. Partners that we've worked with, and don't discount the great people at our transition assistance centers. I've talked to each one of them. I visited everyone at each one of our major installations, and their primary means of resources is available for our soldiers, but all of them said they would never turn a family member away. And they have tons of resources and job opportunities because they're talking to the industry and community. And we are partnered with the Department of Labor. So what I ask you is use every resource you can. I know we can't solve every job problem, but as the Vice and the Secretary said, people at every echelon to the highest levels are working this.
To the SMA's great advice, I would also add to check out Military One Source and their spouse employment section, as well as Hiring Our Heroes. You can find both online. Let's go ahead and give the Vice Chief of Staff, General McConville, the last word.
I'd just like to make a point, if I could, on government housing, goes over to transportation. If you're not satisfied with what you're getting, make sure you fill out the surveys. Don't give them, top marks. Those surveys come back at our level. We have, hundreds of thousands of things going on, millions of people, but those things matter. So we are paying there's contractors being paid to give you the things you need. So if they move you and they don't transport your stuff and they break it all, you let us know and we'll hold them accountable. If you're in housing and privatized, they're being paid. They're not doing it for free. They're being paid to provide quality housing for our soldiers. And if they're not doing that, we need to know. And we need to fill out those surveys, and you let us know. And if you don't get, just send me an email, okay? Thank you.
Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to play the entire recording for you, but you can find it on the Association of the United States Army YouTube page. Search for Family Readiness Initiatives Forum. We've come to the end of our podcast episode. To all our listeners, thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to the Army Matters podcast on iTunes and everywhere podcasts are found. I like saying that. Keep it locked here for all Army Matters. I am Patty Barron with Family Voices. Family strong, Army strong. AUSA is the U.S. Army's professional association, a voice for the Army and support for the soldiers. For more information about AUSA or to become a member, please visit ausa.org.